Hello friends, I'm doing an update today. It's been, I don't know, a couple weeks since I've done an update. And it's going to combine a bunch of different things, the weight loss and thyroid, parasite. There's a couple of things. My daughter's like, why don't you make one video for each of those updates? And I could, but I think people get sick of hearing me, and so skip to the part you want to watch. So, with the parasite, I have been walking regularly, and I have found when I do a vigorous walk and I come home, it feels like I have pop rocks in all my muscles. And especially when I sit down after a vigorous workout, like I will feel the parasites burrowing out of like the lymphatic, which is very oxygenated at that point, into the muscles. So my muscles are having little mini spasms. So it's like pop rocks going into my muscles, which is really an interesting phenomenon. That's been going on for about 3 months maybe, as I walk each night. And so I was hoping that would be killing off some of the parasites with a more higher oxygenation concentration, but I am not finding that. I am still suffering severely from the parasites. So last night I had something happen that I've never happened before. I woke up, I kind of twisted in my sleep. I have been having a lot of hip pain, and I think there's larger parasites burrowing in the hips, and I think I have discussed that. So I sleep on one side and then I will burrow and then I'll flip, and they just like those bigger joints for some reason. So I am flipping a lot during the night, and as I flipped, I kind of twisted and I felt a pulling like in my gut, like I could feel like if I took a string and I stitched my arm, like say I stitched my arm right here and then I opened it, you would feel that string pull through the tissue. As I opened it, it would pull through. And so I felt, as I twisted, I've kind of felt the twinges before and wondered if it was the parasite, but today I knew it was the parasite. I could feel a burrowing into every organ and every hole. It must be a very large parasite because I could feel it burrowing into every different part, and it went like this, and then it kind of came back down, and I could feel as I moved it pulling through all the different organs and tissue as I moved. It was the weirdest sensation. I have not had that before, but so it had to be kind of large because I could actually feel each poke. It was like somebody had a big needle and they were poking through your skin. You could feel it. And then if they went through over here, you could feel it. I could feel it. And then it burrowed up here, and then it burrowed up here. So I could feel it as it was moving through the tissues and the organs and whatever is in there. I could feel it actually burrowing the hole into each different place. And that I have never had that happen before. So that was a really, really weird sensation. So I don't know if anybody else has had that sensation. I haven't had anybody describe it when they write me on my blog or my YouTube channel or the Parasite webpage. So that was really weird. I came out and was telling my daughter about it. It was just such a weird sensation. I'm still having like pop rocks at night in my mouth. It'll wake me up. I can feel them burrowing into my mouth and around my teeth and my roots of my teeth, and I still feel them in the lower regions burrowing out at night, in and out. So that's frustrating, but still going on strong with these stupid parasites. Then I'm still trying to do the weight loss, and I have to say I'm close to 40. Actually today's 40. So I have lost 40 pounds, but I have hovered for the last month around that 40 pounds. I was just over 40 pounds for 1 week, and then I went back to, so out of the 4 months, let's see, February, March, April, May, almost 5 months I've been dieting. I have lost at least a half a pound to a pound each week, except 2. And that last week was one of the 2. And I've been having really, really harsh hormonal surges like I've not experienced before. Like I've talked about having a wave of depression or like a suicidal thought come over me, and I could feel that when the eggs were hatching, that would happen. And I did have a worm come out and lay eggs, and they cause sores like on your backside. They'll lay eggs on wherever there's a large concentration. Like I've had them pop out and lay eggs, and I've had one hanging out of my arm in the morning. I've shared that in another video, and I've scraped off one of them, kind of dug down, and then I felt all these little things crawling on my hand at one point. on my backside and hurried and washed my hand and put peroxide on it, trying to get them off. So those little nematodes, they move pretty quick. And so I did have one lay eggs and hatch, because then I had a little rash on my back of my legs in that area. And so I have had them hatching, and that's usually when I get the waves of like it's not a depression, because I'm not depressed and I don't have depression, but I feel a wave of hormones, if that explains it. So I'll feel a wave of like sadness or like negative thoughts, and then I in my mind I know it's the parasites, so I'm just like, oh, those silly parasites, and I kind of blow it off. But I could see, if I didn't know that I had parasites, I would be really concerned about myself, going, why am I thinking that thought? Why am I thinking negative thoughts? Why am I being depressive? Or why am I having depressive feelings? Because I normally don't have those feelings. But I've been having a lot more of those this last week, to the point where I felt like right after I had my babies, those hormonal shifts for about a week after you have the baby. Actually, it's more like even a couple of days. Like, I didn't have postpartum depression seriously or anything like that, but I did feel waves of sadness for a couple of days. And my first one was the worst. And I think it was because I wasn't near family. I didn't have my mother there. I had nobody at all for me there. So that was, and I had quit working. So I think that was a little bit more emotional for me, just having my first baby, not having anybody around. But what I'm talking about is more of a wave of sadness and a wave of hormones. Like, I could feel it come on in a wave, and then it kind of leaves like a wave. Like, the wave comes up, it crests, and then it comes down. And so that's what I've been feeling this last week, of this wave of sadness, or wave of, why am I doing this? Nobody cares. Why am I doing service? I mean, I was at the food bank quite a bit this week doing service. I'm like, nobody cares that I'm here. Why am I here? And I just feel this wave, and it just, this big emotion come up, and then I would go, oh, that's got to be the parasites, because that's not who I am. In fact, a sweet story. My daughter and I went and visited a sweet lady in our neighborhood, and we visited her today, and we sang her a couple songs. My daughter played on the ukulele, and we sang harmony to a couple of songs for her. And she said that when she thinks of service, she thinks of me. And I was a little bit taken aback, because when I think of service, I think of this lady. She's very, very sweet woman, and she always asks how my girls are and everything. And so I was a little taken back when she said that. But so I always, because I learned early on in my life, and you can read on my blog about this story about when I was in that depression with my first daughter having a baby. I was a little bit sad, and I was thinking about myself, and a friend of ours committed suicide because I didn't answer the phone that day, feeling sorry for myself. So after that time, you can read about it on my blog. You can look up, I think it's under Eric and suicide in the search box on the bottom of the homepage on there for my blog, thesecretisgratitude.com. And from that experience, I learned to do service when I'm feeling sad about things, or I have depression of any kind, or, I'm not that I've ever really suffered from depression from that one experience. I always do service. So I am a service-oriented person, because I know it helps me feel good about life. And I always realize that somebody else is worse off than me. So this is different than just in general feeling blah. This is a wave. Like, I can feel that come on, and it's there. And all of a sudden I was fine 2 minutes before, and all of a sudden now I'm like, nobody likes me, everybody hates me, blah, 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 kind of a feeling. And it doesn't last for very long. And maybe it would if I didn't have this kind of personality or thought process, but it has, those waves have come over me probably 10 times a day in the last 4 days. Today's been better, and I'm going to talk about why I think it might be better, but today hasn't been as bad. But for like 3 or 4 days, I was these waves would come on, and I'm like, something is wrong with me. I feel like I'm pregnant. I was like the beginning of pregnancy hormones, like just feeling something's different, something's changing, kind of feeling off, really moody, crying easily, wanting to just cry over nothing. So I know that I've had some hormone shifting and things going on. And I think it's been in maybe some of the things that I've been eating, because I normally don't have that. I've hit menopause, and I don't have those hormones too often. But I gained 6 pounds of water weight in the last week. And then one night, I urinated 5 pounds of water weight off. That is a huge amount of water weight to get rid of in an evening, like a night's sleep. So I was up all night going to the bathroom. But it's been a rough week as far as hormones and water weight and retaining water and just not feeling good. And so I think part of it was that I was eating some dairy, and I'm wondering if there was bovine growth hormone in the milk, in the ice cream that I was eating, the dairy. I mean, that was the only dairy I was eating was ice cream, and I wasn't eating a ton of it, but way more than I normally do. And so I'm wondering if I got some bovine growth hormone. Now, I did a research paper on bovine growth hormone, and it's really horrible for you, and it causes cancer, and it causes men to have breasts, and it causes hormone fluctuations in children to grow breasts prematurely. So, do read and study on that if you're interested. But I personally know it can't be good. And so I'm wondering if those hormone fluctuations were because I was eating dairy. And I don't drink milk. I usually don't do any kind of, I don't drink even I don't eat cereal. I don't do anything where I would need dairy, except I eat cheese, and I usually get the bovine growth hormone free cheese. So, but I'm wondering if somehow I just got some of those hormones in something I was eating. Today has been better. So I'm hoping. I also did try a new herb that I had not tried before. And I also wonder if it could have been that herb. I had been taking it for 3 or 4 days. So I pulled that herb out of the mix for my vitamins that I take every day. And I'm going to see if it could be that's causing some hormone fluctuations. So, also because I don't do dairy, and I can't eat a lot of protein. Over the years, I have purchased quite a few, non-dairy protein powder mixes, non-meat, non-dairy. And, I'm hoping that by getting more protein, I can let the fat go and because I crave protein with the parasites, and I've shared that in all of my videos. It's especially at night when they're active, I crave cheese, I crave dairy and, or meat. And sometimes I will just get a pound of, and I don't know why, Swiss cheese. I hadn't eaten it in years, but I crave Swiss cheese over the last couple of years. So there must be something, an enzyme or something that I crave with the parasites. So, that's normally when I crave it. So what I decided to do was, I have purchased quite a few different types of protein plant powder, and tried them over the years. And I haven't noticed a ton of difference, but I was volunteering with my daughters at the food bank this week. I'm really grateful. Our food bank has stayed open through the whole COVID, and they just worked out a way that they could just make boxes and put them in people's cars. They drove through, and I'm on the board at our local food bank. And so I didn't go down during COVID, the main big rush on COVID, because I had a daughter coming home from New York serving as a missionary. So I needed to stay healthy so I could go get her. And then we had to quarantine for 2 weeks because she was on planes out of New York, and 2 different planes and 3 different airports. So then we had to quarantine. And then I had daughters coming from all over the States to visit her. And I didn't want to take a chance on if they had it and brought it home. I didn't want to go down there and do some volunteer because I didn't want to pass it to the people at the food bank. So I haven't helped at the food bank in months, for that reason. And they had a board meeting this week, and they talked about how the warehouse manager quit right during the peak of COVID. And I didn't hear about that. And so when I went out to the warehouse, I was overwhelmed with how awful it was. I'm the person at the food bank who's been associated with the food bank the longest. I've been there longer than anybody even works there or anybody on the board. So for me to say it's the worst I've ever seen is pretty big, because that's been over 20 years I've been involved with them. So I typed up my notes from the board meeting, and then I asked if my daughters and I could come and volunteer the next day. I had 2 home, Princess 4 and 5 were home. And so we went and spent 7 hours organizing and sorting and rearranging to get everything so that the forklift could get through the entire building, because there were so many pallets that needed to be sorted and consolidated that the forklift couldn't get in there. So in that 7 hours, we were able to clear out and shift and move all of this stuff. So that was a blessing. And the other blessing, it's funny and amazing to me that when I go do service, in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go do service. But every time, God is so funny, because every time I go do service and I think I'm doing something for somebody else, it always pays me back. I always end up getting more than I give when I do service. So while we were sorting through all of these donations and boxes and pallets, I found all sorts of plant protein. I was like, and I have purchased them in the past, and they're about $50 for something this size. I have purchased many of these over the years, and they are about $50 for something this size at the health food store. I live in a small town, so for me to get it, it's a health food store or online, and it's about $50 for me to get this. So I kept going, oh, look, there's a plant protein powder. I'm gonna see if they'll let me take that when I go. And then I go in another one, and then there's this one, and I'm like, oh, look, more plant protein powder. And then I found a couple bags of these, and I was like, oh, look, more protein powder. And then I went back the next day to drop off something. We had taken some things home to bag and something like that. And then I went back the next day, and they had cases of these from this company, Phyto Pure. They had these protein powders that are plant-based. And I also had gotten these ones a little while ago from there, which is another brand. So I thought, I'm going to try all these different protein blends and see if I can feel better, non-dairy, and still find the protein that I need, and still be able to lose weight and eat healthy. I've lost 40 pounds, but most people can't tell. I run into them and nobody says, oh, you've lost weight. But my pants are literally falling off. My daughter's like, Mom, you need a belt. I'm like, well, when I put them on after, I get them out of the dryer, they're fine for a little while, but then they just start to fall off. And if I have my phone in my pocket, they literally will I'll drop the pants. So I have to start wearing belts. And I've been shifting down to lower sizes as I go. So I think I'm losing more inches at the moment than I'm losing weight, because I've been retaining a lot of water weight because of the hormone fluxes that I've been having over the last week or two. So I still don't know what's causing those hormone fluctuations, and fluctuations, I don't know if that's a word, the hormone fluctuations and the waves. I do think it might be the eggs hatching, because that's when I normally feel it, but that means I've got to have a large amount hatching to have that many waves. So I'm wondering if one hatched and then another hatched and then another hatched, because it's been all week, plus all the water weight gain. So, but also I thought, when I drink water, I have to drink water that has minerals in it, because otherwise I don't assimilate it. So if I just drink water that's filtered or from the tap or something, I don't assimilate it, and then I swell up. So I think that because I was drinking the shakes for the last few days, and they have a lot of water in them, I think I wasn't assimilating the water. I might be taking the nutrients out, but the water was just going into all my feet, my hands would just swell. So I have started to add minerals to the water when I do the smoothie. I don't do smoothies. I'm not adding anything to them. I'm not adding fruit. I'm not adding yogurt or anything. I've just been drinking the powder with with water in it, and shaking it in one of those little shake water bottles. So I'll let you know which ones. I'm going to try maybe one brand for a week, and then one brand for a week, and one brand for a week, and see which one makes me feel better, if any of them, and see which one I like best. I've never had the money to go buy more than one type because I can't afford it, but because the food bank was so generous to allow me to take the things that I could use, then I can try it. So, and I'm very grateful to these companies, so I should give them a shout out. So Phyto Pure, Usana, Owen, it's got a line underneath it, so I think it's Owen, and then Orgain and Mother Soy. So yay, thank you to you companies for donating to the food bank, because there's people like me who can really use it. And I mean, I don't go to the food bank for meals or anything at this point, because it's just usually me or any kind of help. I haven't gone to in years and years and years, but when I was a single mom of 5 smaller children, it was very helpful because I could get them snacks that I couldn't afford. So the food bank has been a huge blessing in my life, and I got on the board at that time. And then I've just been on the board and helped him get a new building and grants and things like that. So I've been really associated with them for years. And I really appreciate the companies who donate to the food bank and get their write-offs, because we've benefited for many years. Okay, so then the last thing I wanted to talk about was this book that I found. So one day I felt really strongly that I needed to go to a secondhand store. And the secondhand stores in our area opened up a week or two ago. Well, it had to be a couple weeks ago, because I felt really, really strongly one day to go. And was like, I wonder why I need to go. But I always try and follow those feelings when I call them a prompting or an urging. It feels different than a thought process. It feels like something is saying you need to go. So I had the strong urge that I needed to go, and I'm wearing my mask and my gloves, and I go in and I'm kind of walking around. And I don't normally buy books, because if you read my blog, you know I get what I call sititis. I've named it because as soon as I sit down, the parasites start to move, and then they let their hormone out that makes you tired, and then I fall asleep. So if I sit down, within 20 minutes, I'm asleep, no matter where I am. And so and it's really hard to stay awake in like meetings, because you get really super tired, and it feels like you're almost drugged. You're on a sleep drug or something. So I get this sititis. So I do not read anymore. I love to read, but I just don't read anymore unless I'm at the computer and working, because I fall asleep. So for me to go to the book section is I don't do it. I don't buy books, and I don't read books because of that problem. So I walked to a new cart that had just come out, and it was against the wall, and I poked my head around to the backside of the thing because it's heavy to move. So I just kind of looked around, and this book was there, and it had a book up here like this, and I just reached around and I saw the whole thing was full of books, and I saw this one, and I pulled it out. Like, I felt drawn to this book, and I pulled it out, and it's called Why Do I Still Have Thyroid Symptoms When My Lab Tests Are Normal? Now, my lab tests are not normal. I have a high TPO, and I've had it for years. Like, I found out I had a thyroid problem around the same time I got diagnosed with this parasite. And what the man in this book, maybe it's a woman, I don't know, cayenne says, and it was $1.50. You can see that price there. And what it says is, I've only gotten to chapter 2 because I'm like, don't sit down very long to read it. I just kind of flip through it when I have a second waiting for one of the girls or something. It's everything that I have wrong with my thyroid. And it's saying that they have linked the gut health to the thyroid health. If your gut is leaky and you have gut problems, you will have thyroid problems. And it talks about women having the what's it called? Cystic thyroid disease. And that's the other thing with the hormones. My mind is not working. My kids are like, "What is wrong with you, Mom? You can't remember anything. I just keep doing stupid things." Polycystic thyroid disease. Is that the right name? Anyway, it's the women's, they produce too much progesterone and they start growing a beard. And I'm sorry that my mind isn't clear enough right now to remember what it is. POS, I think, is what it's called. Polycystic ovarian syndrome. POS. That's what it's called. So, it talks about that, and then it talks about infertility and all these, and hot flashes and all the stuff that I've been dealing with. And it says, as long as you still have leaky gut, your thyroid won't get any better. And my TPO is the one that causes the Hashimoto's, which is the gluten intolerance and everything. So that's because you've got the leaky gut. The proteins from the gluten look similar to the thyroid, and then it's creating antibodies against the thyroid, basically the gluten protein that looks like the thyroid protein. And so he's talking about how the gut is essential to heal the gut. It's to get better, your thyroid better. And he says if you don't get your thyroid better and your gut better, then it will continue to progress. And he talks about cerebellum problems in the later stages. So it starts as thyroid problems, then it turns into diabetes, which I've been doing symptoms of, and then it turns into this cerebellum problem where you have vertigo and dizziness and everything. And now we also know I've had that with the parasites as well. So this book is chronologically, it might be a she, I don't know. There's no picture of the author on the back and in the cover, so I don't know. But it's talking about how all of those things are related. So if we have the parasite and the parasite's weaving and burrowing and causing leaky gut, there's no hope for ever getting the thyroid better or the diabetes better or the vertigo or anything better, because that's a problem. Also, I've shared in the past and about my doctor, every time I am tested, I am significantly vitamin D deficient, always. And I've told my doctor I do not assimilate vitamin D, the oil vitamins, A, E, D, I don't assimilate them unless they're in a water-soluble form for some reason, and I didn't know why. And in this book, they talk about how there's certain people from Northern European descent who have a problem assimilating the oils. It's a genetic defect. And I'm like, that would be me. That explains everything, because I take vitamin D all day long. I can't do oils if I do oils. And also the other thing I found fascinating in this book is he talks about liver. Your liver, your thyroid works with your liver to help detoxify the body. And if you have a thyroid problem, then you'll probably have a liver problem. And that explains so much. First, it was my thyroid having a problem. They'll start with the leaky gut and the parasite symptoms. And then I started with the thyroid symptoms and started gaining weight and not feeling good. And all of the symptoms, dry skin, blah, 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 that are thyroid. And then the liver, and then the vertigo, and then the diabetes. I mean, all of them, everything I am experiencing is in this book. And I'm finding it fascinating that more doctors don't know about it, because it's very clear and very understandable. And it talks about all the different studies where they've proven that all of these things are in a line. And he uses charts, and he uses pictures, and it's like very scientific what the steps are and how they stack on each other and things like that. So if you have this parasite or one similar to it that is burrowing in the gut, a hookworm, threadworm, strongyloides, or this one that you swallow them, they get in your gut, and then they burrow in your gut, then I think this book would be beneficial to you, only in the fact that it would explain what's going on in your body because you have the leaky gut and you have the parasites. So hopefully, until I get rid of the parasites, that leaky gut is not going to go away. But I feel like God led me to this book so that I could find out about the link between all of the symptoms I'm having, the liver issues, not being able to assimilate the fats. Thus I get yellow eyes when I eat anything with fat on it. So I can't do any meats. I can't do any, even if people are like, eat avocados, they're healthy, or eat coconut oil. If I eat avocados or coconut oil, my eyes get more yellow. So I can't do any kind of even healthy fats for the most part. But I've been craving so much protein that I've been eating cheeses, and I can't do fatty meats. But even fish oil, if I take fish oil in the capsules, I don't assimilate it. I don't assimilate vitamin D in the capsules. So I have to buy water soluble, and that's what he mentions in here. You have to buy water soluble vitamin D, and I have been buying these little sublingual vitamin K's with D in them and taking those every day. And I have had more energy in general over the last few months, because I've been taking my vitamins every day, and I take a multivitamin every day, and a good multivitamin, and I've been taking those iron I talk about on my other videos. So I am finding things that are helping me feel better. I haven't drunk Coke since the end of January, except for I had a couple days where I had massive migraines and I was vomiting and really sick with migraines. And so I drank Coke twice. Once was that day, and then once when I was driving and I was really, really tired. Bringing my daughter home from the airport, I was super, super tired. And so I drank maybe that much Coke just to try and give me a boost to get through to get home. So I've been doing really well on the diet. I've been walking most nights. I have lost weight every week, even if it's only a half a pound. At least it's not gaining, and I haven't gained during the quarantine, other than this last week with water weight. It was like at one point I had gained 7 pounds in the week. I was like, how am I gaining 7 pounds? And then I urinated off some water, and then I've been letting more water go each day. But so I hope I don't keep up with this hormonal flux thing that's going on. I'm hoping I can figure it out and start to feel better, but I'm grateful. This morning I was back to the low weight that I've been on every week. So hopefully I can continue to lose at least a half a pound to a pound a week. If I would love to lose more, but I've had a lot of stress and I haven't been sleeping well. I've had more children home in the last 2 months than I've had in 6 years. So, because they all want to come see their sister who just came home as a missionary, and they haven't seen her in a couple of years. So I've had a lot of visitors and a lot of kids home, and we've been staying up late, and I haven't been eating the best. And but it's been fun, and I'm grateful to have her home. But it's just normally me here, so I can kind of control what comes into the house food-wise. But since they've been home, there's a lot of stuff coming in, and then we'll sit down and play a game, and they'll leave the treat right by me, and I'm like, oh, that looks good, and I'll have one, and then I shouldn't, but I have. But at least I haven't gained. I've just been maintaining, so I have to be happy about that. But hopefully this hormone thing will go away. And with COVID, I don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon. I live in the Western US, and it's getting more cases. And so I've just been trying to be careful, wearing a mask everywhere I go, and less trips to the store. And with going to the food bank now, I've got all this protein meals. Who needs food? I'll just live on protein shakes. Anyway, I'll try and keep you updated. Sorry, I don't have any more information about the parasites and killing them off. Like I said, I was trying this herb this week, and then I wasn't sure if that was what was causing the hormone fluctuation. So I pulled myself off of it. I'll go off of it for a week, and then I'll try putting myself back on it and see if that was what was causing the hormone fluxes. But it could be just the parasites getting worse. I do have bigger ones, and I do have it pretty bad. So it could be that. Who knows? I wish I could tell you. But anyway, I hope you're staying safe through this crazy COVID. And I'm sorry for many of you. I got the sweetest little note from a guy, and I shouldn't say little note because he's a man, but and a lot of you have written me really sweet notes. But it makes me feel like, okay, I need to keep posting and being positive and sharing that people can get through this. Even though I haven't found a cure, at least you'll know, hey, it's the parasites making me feel that way. And then kind of just take yourself out of that depressive state of mind. He was talking about how he's been thinking about suicide because this parasite thing has been going on for 2 years and it's ruining his life. And I'm like, you're not alone. You're not. Read the comments. Everybody's having the same problems. It's okay. We all have those weak moments where we feel like we just can't go on and deal with another night of not sleeping, or parasites moving in and out, or feeling creepy crawlies under our skin, or whatever it is. You're not alone. And I just appreciate you guys all sharing in the comments section so that other people who are just finding it can read that they're not alone. So thank you to all of you who have commented and shared. And even if you're embarrassed, you don't have to share your story on there, but at least just comment and say, hey, same here. Keep a smile on your face, or keep trucking, or have a happy day. We're all in this together, or something, so that people know that I'm not crazy and you're not crazy, and that we all are suffering from this. And hopefully science will catch up soon and start looking at it so we can all feel better, because it makes me so sad when I read people's stories of losing their kids, or their spouses telling them they're crazy, or doctors putting them in psych wards. All of these stories are true. I've had people write me, several in fact, lost their kids or been put in psychiatric units because they felt things creeping under their skin and they thought they were on drugs. In fact, this guy yesterday said, my doctor thinks I'm on drugs because I told him I could feel things creeping under my skin. And so just thanks for being positive, and thanks for putting your positiveness out there, and thank you for giving me the courage and the feedback that I can get on here and talk about such personal things, even though it's horrifying. So thank you, and I hope you're all staying safe, and I hope you have a very blessed day.